Today we're taking a look at the KEF LS wireless range, one of the most popular, most important and most impressive active speaker systems of the last 10 years. My name's Reece, I'm from AudioTrends, and today we want to answer which LS speaker is right for you. Let's get into it. So taking a look at the range, we've got 4 different speakers. We have the entry-level LSX Lite, then we step up to the LSX II, followed by probably the most familiar and popular of the bunch, the LS50 II, and then lastly the newest and the biggest of the series, the LS60. I do also have featured here the KEF LSX subwoofer, and while not named as part of the LS range, this is the accompanying sub that we see people pair mostly with these speakers, and it's important to point that out. Starting off in the series, we have the LSX. That comprises of 2 different speakers. We have the LSX II, and then the stripped back version, the LSX Lite. Now, whilst they do both have the same amplification, and they both feature KEF's same Uni-Q driver array, there are some key notable differences between the two that may help you decide which way you need to go. As you can see, the LSX II have a higher grade finish. They have this lovely cloth finish on the sides, a few extra color choices, and they've put a little bit more attention into the aesthetics. Apart from that, they do have a few other key technological differences, mainly being around the inputs and how the speakers connect to each other. In terms of connectivity, the LSX II is the winner, and that is because the speakers left and the right can talk to each other wirelessly over your network. This gives you a much greater freedom of positioning and movement, and it also looks a little bit cleaner because you don't need cables tethering the 2 speakers together. Whereas the LSX II Lite does require a USB-C tethered cable. And that's because one speaker acts as the master, and that has all of our inputs on it, and that sends the audio information across to the secondary speaker. So whilst you are still getting the same drivers, the same speaker essentially, you are going to have a couple of extra cables and be a bit more limited on where you can put them in your room. Next up, we're going to take a look at the inputs. We'll start with the LSX II. So you can see that you have a number of inputs on the back of these speakers. You're going to have a 3.5mm auxiliary, so if you want to connect a turntable or a CD player, you can easily do so. You're also going to find a Toslink optical input, a HDMI ARC, which you will see across both models, as well as a USB-C input too. The LSX Lite does have some of those inputs. It comes with a USB-C input, a HDMI ARC, as well as an optical Toslink input, so you can still connect your TV up or a CD player via the optical cable, but if you are a vinyl listener, there may not be a way to connect your turntable into the Lite system. Wireless connectivity is relatively similar between the two. Both are going to feature connection through KEF's Connect app. That's going to allow you to make some adjustments to the EQ, set things like the room size, and adjust for a subwoofer if connected. You'll also find streaming service connections like Tidal Connect, Spotify Connect, AirPlay, and Chromecast built in on both models. There is just a couple of small differences. Mainly, the LSX II is room ready and does also support MQA files, whereas the LSX Lite can't handle these sorts of formats or cannot connect through to Roon. Listening to these speakers, both are going to sound identical. That's because they both have the exact same drivers, the exact same amplification, and identical cabinet design. That means you're going to get down to about 50 Hz all the way well above 20 kHz across both models. Now they are rear ported, so if you are mounting them or placing them close to a wall, you may get a little bit more bass exaggeration loading off the wall for the bottom end. Ultimately, the LSX is the perfect choice for those with smaller rooms. Think an apartment lounge room system, maybe on your TV cabinet, on either side of the monitor in an office or study, or as a small bedroom system. Because they're compact, they're really easy to position, and they don't take up too much space, and they're not too intrusive in your environment. The finishes are also stunning, and they're almost like a little art piece that you can sit on your cabinet or table. If you do plan on putting the LSX in a larger room, I would just really consider adding a subwoofer, as they are going to struggle to fill that space, especially in the bottom end. Mounting and positioning the speakers is really easy, and KEF have a few accessories to help you do so. Firstly is KEF's dedicated speaker stands for the LSX. They're about 600mm high, and they're just going to give you greater flexibility when you don't have any cabinet space to put the speakers on. Secondly is KEF's desktop stands. They sit the speaker about that high off the desk, and they're also slightly angled upwards. That's going to be perfect for somebody in an office or study environment. That angles the speakers a little bit further up towards the ears. And lastly, you can also get wall mounts for these speakers. So if you don't have any space at all to put them on, you can throw them up on the wall and have them hidden away. So which one should you choose, the LSX II or the Lite? If you're somebody that has analog inputs like a turntable, then you really have to choose the II, because it's the only one that has the analog input on the back. Also, if you want to position the speakers really wide apart, maybe on opposite sides of a room, or you're just unable to run a tether cable between the two, this is also going to be the choice for you. For somebody with a small media cabinet or a desktop system where the speakers are going to be close together, and if you're just primarily streaming or playing from the TV, then maybe the Lite's a better choice. It's going to sound just as good, and it is a little bit more budget friendly. Next in the series is the LS50 Wireless II. This is by far the most familiar and popular of the range. Since being released about 10 years ago in 2016, the LS50 has won a crazy amount of awards, and it's really been a staple of active speakers in the industry since then. Now it's on its second generation, and it features all the latest tech that you'll find in the other speakers. So what do we get when we step up from the LSX to the LS50? Firstly, now we introduce KEF's meta material. Basically, it's a sound absorption that sits in behind the drivers and removes a lot of the unwanted noise that comes out the back of the driver. This gives it a much cleaner, more detailed and less distorted sound, and it really does make a big difference. Recently we've compared the Generation 1, which did not feature the meta material, to the 2, and the differences were honestly astounding. This is just an incredible speaker and a big step up. Firstly, you'll notice that we have a bigger cabinet and bigger drivers. So naturally, the LS50 is going to give you much more bottom end and a bigger, fuller sound that's going to suit larger, medium-sized rooms that the LSX will just struggle in. Features many of the same inputs that you'll find in all the other speakers. HDMI ARC, optical, USB, also a 3.5mm analog input. One of the main differences you'll see in terms of inputs, however, is you have a subwoofer output on both the left and the right speaker. So if you do have a larger room and you want to have more symmetrical bass and more bottom end, then you can run two subwoofers, one off each speaker. In terms of connectivity, the LS50s connect in the same way as the LSX II and the LS60. So that's either a wireless connection over your Wi-Fi network, or you can tether them with an Ethernet cable. There is no tethering USB cable required. In terms of wireless connectivity, you get all the same connections that you'll find in the LSX II and the LS60. So that's Tidal, Spotify, AirPlay, Chromecast, as well as room-ready capability, and it can play MQA files. So why should you pick the LS50 over the LSX? Well, if you have a larger room, that'll be the first sign. The LS50 performs much better in a bigger open space. Because of the larger drivers and cabinet, it produces a much more full sound. The extra bottom end and going a little bit deeper also may mean that those who don't have space for a subwoofer may not need one to get the most out of their music. That being said, the LS50 does still pair perfectly with the KEF II for those that like a little bit more punch down low. So really, if you're looking for a dedicated hi-fi system and you need to stick to a bookshelf speaker and you don't want all the extra clutter of amplifiers, preamps, power amps, then this is going to be really the perfect choice. It has just been such a great speaker for a long time. Now in its second generation, it's even better and by far the biggest player in the market. And lastly, we have the newest and the biggest speaker in the range, the LS60. So as you can see, this is quite a bit different to the other two bookshelves. Firstly, well, it's a floor standing speaker, and it is a stunning one at that. Beautiful slender profile, skinnier than my phone, and it's going to fit really well into just about any space while still giving you a huge floor standing speaker sound. So as this is part of KEF's wireless range, you're going to find all the same wireless connectivity that you would in the LSX II and in the LS50 Wireless II. So again, that's all of your streaming services, including Room, as well as wireless pairing between the speakers themselves. Again, you can still connect and tether them with an Ethernet cable. For physical inputs, we've still got plenty of choice. We've got an RCA input, we've got coax and optical inputs for digital signals, as well as USB and HDMI ARC, so you can still watch your movies on these speakers. So obviously the biggest notable difference between these speakers and the LS50 and LSX is the size. These are a true floor standing speaker and they sound like one as well. One thing that you'll notice straight away is that each speaker has 4 5¼ woofers. These handle the low range and they're what we call a force cancelling driver, meaning that the 2 woofers on each side push and pull against each other. This means that they're incredibly snappy and allows them to go extremely deep, even more than a lot of passive floor standing speakers as well. We have them rated here down to about 26 Hz. LS60s are extremely compact for a floor standing speaker, and that's well in part due to the design and the research that KEF put in for these force cancelling woofers on each side. The LS60s will fit just about any environment, given how slender and compact their profile is. At only 160mm wide, they can easily fit either side a cabinet if you're low on space. And also for those that don't like the traditional floor standing look lined with woofers down the front, then the LS60s offer a refreshing spin on a floor standing speaker that's just as nice to look at as it is to listen to. Or if you are a bit of a bass head, or if you just like having a really clean symmetrical bottom end that goes right down into the 20 Hz range, then you can still connect a subwoofer to each speaker. That's going to be perfect for those that are also big movie buffs, because there's just nothing that quite compares to a subwoofer with those big explosions or rumbly car chases. So there you have it, that is a quick overview of the KEF LS wireless range. So which LS is right for you? Well, that's really going to come down to a couple of things: the size of your room, what you intend to plug into it, and also what budget you have to work with. If you have a small room and you can have the speakers tethered together, the Lite is going to be the way to go. If you want the freedom and the space of putting the speakers further apart, but you're still only looking for a smaller speaker, then go up to the LSX II Lite. If you want a dedicated HiFi system and you want a bookshelf speaker that gives you everything you need all in one package, the LS50. Or if you just like playing it loud and you like the aesthetics and the big sound of a floor standing speaker, then the LS60 is the way to go. So really there's lots of different choices and you're not going to be disappointed with any speaker in the LS range. If you have any other questions, feel free to get in touch with us or email us here at shop@audiotrends.com.au or visit our showroom in Ringwood. We're always happy to have a chat and demo our speakers for you in the shop. And that's all from me, and we'll see you again soon.